Happy Friday afternoon, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Up next on Another View, a conversation with author Martin Davis, who wrote the book, Are We There Yet? The Ultimate Challenge. In it, Davis says he has the blueprint for Black people to follow that will raise its status in America and beyond. He believes African Americans can correct the problems within the community internally and without the help or influence of outsiders. Martin will share his step-by-step, challenge-by-challenge outline that speaks to the heart of the ills facing the African American community. Stay tuned to find out his plan. Another View is next, right after this news from NPR.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. I hope you're doing well on this Friday afternoon. Before we start our conversation with author Martin Davis, I do want to say a very special hello to all of you mentors and volunteers and students who are involved with the Walk In It Incorporated program. This is a mentorship program for girls that is being run in schools in Southampton County, Franklin, Suffolk, and Richmond. And this past Saturday, I had the pleasure and the honor of serving as their keynote speaker for their gala. And then at the end of the speech, they awarded me with a Stiletto Award, which is an award that they give out to women who, as they say, stand tall and in their work in the community. So I was extremely honored to receive that. And I just wanted to say thank you and hello to everyone involved in that organization. The issue of police violence against African American men has been in the forefront of our national conversation lately, with people taking to the streets in protest. That action has caused another conversation within the African American community. And here's the question that's being pondered. Quote, how come African Americans are not marching in the streets when we kill each other? There are lots of challenges that need solutions within the Black community, and our guest today says he has a way for Black folks to address our community issues internally, thus raising our status in America and working more cohesively within our community. His name is Martin L. Davis. He's a community organizer, youth mentor, career development coach, political activist, inspirational speaker, and the author of Are We There Yet? The Ultimate Challenge. Please welcome to Another View, joining us by phone, Martin Davis. Hi, Martin. How are you?
Hey, Barbara. Thanks for having me on the show today.
We're really happy to talk with you today, and I apologize for the scratchiness in my voice. You know that flu that's going around everywhere has left me with a cough. So, but we're going to hang in there and persevere anyway. So I'm curious, what made you write Are We There Yet?
Well, a couple of things that really just hit my heart here in Chicago. I don't know if you're familiar with a little girl by the name of Janila Watkins.
Absolutely.
She was 6 months old, and as her father was changing her diaper, she was killed by some random gunfire or maybe a gang-related attack against her dad. But at 6 months old, she was killed. And then another young lady by the name of Hydea Pendleton. And I'm sure you saw the story on this beautiful young
Yeah, she was the one who had visited
girl.
the president, actually, right?
Exactly. She had just done something for the second inauguration, and she was killed with random gang violence, just trying to shelter herself from the rain with some friends. And those two things happened pretty much back to back, Barbara, and it just caused me to put pen to paper and just start writing, like, why are we killing one another? Aren't we set up or sick and tired of being sick and tired of killing one another this way? And there's nothing to show for it, just bloodshed on our streets.
Chicago, that really was that last Easter 2014. I mean, you all had a real big spate of killings during that time, didn't you?
Yeah, so over the Easter holiday weekend, I bet you there were about 44 shootings. I noted in my book, I don't have it right in front of me, but I remember that. And let me tell you, I have a fear every time we get into the warmer months here in Chicago. Because not for nothing, when that warm weather comes and it's over 72 degrees or so, every weekend you can pretty much bet, Barbara, on Monday on the news when you're listening to the radio, they're going to have double-digit deaths and double-digit shootings here in Chicago.
Now, with all the things that you do, Martin, because you're a community activist, you also are a motivational speaker, I'm sure you come in contact with all types of people. And your book is written, as you say, in such a way that it sounds like a conversation you would hear in the barbershop. So my question to you then is, as you look at our community, you're saying we need to step up, we as an African Americans need to step up and take control of our own communities and stop blaming others. Am I interpreting that correctly?
No, you're absolutely correct. Like Malcolm X said, no one can help the black man until he decides to help himself. See, we have all the tools to be able to help ourselves. We just have to now step up, hold each other accountable, take ownership of our communities, utilize the police to our advantage to clear ourselves and rid ourselves of these gangbangers. What bothers me, Barbara, is this whole no snitching thing. You have to understand that if someone is willing to shoot and kill a 6-month-old, they're willing to shoot and kill you. So why would you protect that person by not dropping a dime on them when you know good and well they're the ones that were involved in the shooting of a young teen or a baby?
Well,
it's only a matter of time before it's on your doorstep.
And some people say, though, that they don't snitch because they are afraid that in fact will come to their doorstep.
Well, the thing is, in Chicago, it's beautiful because you can give an anonymous tip via phone, text message. You never even have to give your name. So, Father Flager and I, we had put together a $15,000 reward for the shooting of a young 9-year-old by the name of Antonio Smith. Mm-hmm. And not for nothing, there were tips that came in, and now 4 people have been arrested for the killing of this young man. Now, keep in mind, this young man, 9 years old, was only going to the corner store for his parents or something, and the rival gang thought he was about to, tell the other gang where they were at and all the craziness. 9 years old, dead by gang violence. But fortunately, the community stepped up, did the right thing, and now we have 4 people off the street.
Now, I love just reading your book. I want to quote a couple of things from here. Challenge number 6, for example, excuse me, you say over some stupid stuff. And you talk about some of the comments that you've heard as to why someone has shot someone else. For example, he didn't say excuse me when he bumped into me. Dude was staring at me. Someone was trying to holler at my girl. He can't come up to my hood talking that smack, disrespecting me. I told him to stay off my block. He stepped on my new Air Jordans. What's going on there, Martin? I mean, why do you think that there are some within the community that feel that the only option they have is to take it to its ultimate end?
I have I really don't understand. When I'm talking to young brothers that have been locked up and I hear these reasons of why they're in prison for something that trivial, I say, do you understand I bump into people almost every day going in and out of a train, and I have no problem saying, my bad, excuse me, pardon me? That doesn't make me less of a man. That makes me a man. Why do I have to reach out for a gun just because somebody bumped into me, because somebody looked at me that I feel too long? And now I'm doing the rest of my life in prison away from my kids, my family, my parents. And I try to explain to them, if you could do it all over again, would you do it differently? Most of them say yes. They definitely say yes. They say, I can't believe I'm locked up for something that stupid. Or sometimes, Barbara, they don't even remember what the beef started about. Now think about that, being locked up the rest of your life and you can't even remember why you're there, basically.
So are you talking about the African-American community as a whole, or are you talking about the inner city? Are you talking about low income? Give us kind of an idea of this sense of how we all need to pull ourselves together, but in what ways specifically?
And I have to be honest, I'm talking about the inner cities, lower income people, lower education. And I have to say that because I live in a community, a suburban community, where we don't have these issues. I live in a community where if something's going on our street, we're picking up the phone with the quickness. We will call the police in a hot minute and have them come out and address any type of situation, whether it's vandalism, littering, loud music, smoking dope, you name it. We are not ashamed to utilize those police who we pay with our tax dollars. Mm-hmm. We're in the inner cities. They don't want to call the police. It's like against their code. And my problem is if you don't have the police address some of these issues, you're going to constantly have them, which I prove time and time and again I'm right, because every single weekend in some of the same areas, over and over, you have the same type of crime, same type of shooting.
So when you talk to these brothers in particular, but I know you're talking to men and women, then what do they say to you about how different your life is compared to what they have to face? And the second part of that question is, do you sometimes get blowback that maybe you're blaming the victim as opposed to looking at the societal racism and other issues that play into that also?
Oh, well, keep in mind, I know that this is bigger than just us. We didn't put ourselves in some of this predicament on our own. But I do let them know that, hey, there's a lot of poor white communities and poor Hispanic communities and poor Asian communities and Hasidic Jews that don't have a ton of money. But you do not see that type of behavior in their communities. And they're poor like us. They don't have the same advantages as some affluent people, but yet they're not killing one another. They're not killing the people that look like them and speak like them and practice religion like them the way we do. Why are we the ones who are so prone to pick up a gun and kill one another or degrade one another? And I always bring this back, Barbara. How come we're the only folks that call each other the N word, the B word, H word, instead of my brother, my sister? Because as far as I'm concerned, Barbara, it's a lot easier to kill someone you refer to as the N or as the B because they don't hold any value to you, and versus someone that you consider my brother or you respect as my sister, or, somebody that you regard their life as important.
So, Martin, well, let me throw out the phone numbers first because I want to get our audience to join our conversation. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. I know many of you have called into the show in the past, particularly around this issue of snitching, as they call it, and whether or not we should or should not be doing that within the communities. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So, Martin, how do we begin then to change the mindset? I know you throw out some challenges, and I want you to get very specific with me. For example, you give a challenge about listening to music as an example. How would that, by taking that challenge, start to change the mindset?
If you can recall, at one point, we had some very, very positive hip-hop music and R&B music. Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, Public Enemy, Fight the Power, Poor Righteous Teachers. Like, we had people that were feeding us on a daily basis music that uplifted us, music that showed us how unity and bringing us together and fighting our oppressor. Now, all we talk about is drugs, booty shaking, cars, buying this, buying that, just trivial stuff. We don't have anybody out there telling us that we should be starting our own business or we should be out there voting and putting, people that look like us in charge of our political arena, or even education, that it's better to be brilliant than to be stupid and getting locked up in the years to come. We need something positive that's constantly feeding our young people's minds, because believe me, there's a difference when you're listening to that type of music all the time. And I love hip-hop music. Don't get me wrong. I listen to it. I love the stuff. I think we have the most creative, talented, innovative MCs out there, but they could be turning this around and making it for good and uplifting our people instead of us degrading our people.
So what do you think then that we need to do in order to affect that change? How do we change the music around?
Push. Well, not for nothing, Barbara. Why don't we just push our hip hop artists and the record labels? Stop feeding into this negativity and really push them to do something positive. Whether or not it's a movie that they put out that's positive, like Selma, go and support it. Versus some nonsense that they might be releasing next week. It's all about, I guess, really changing their mindset to let them know these hip-hop artists are a big influence on our young people. They know it. I'm sure they do, because they follow the way they dress. They follow where they purchase their sneakers, where they purchase their clothes, their pocketbooks, their shoes. So if we could take those key individuals that are in the limelight and that our children, kind of use as role models and show them that they're buying black products, that they're supporting black business, that they support education and how important education is, how it's important to stay out of prison, not go to prison. Like, we glorify, sometimes to me, a person that gets out of prison more so than we glorify a person that gets their bachelor's degree or master's degree. Like, correct me when I'm wrong with this.
Let me go to the phones because they are lit up, as I'm sure you know, Martin. Jonathan,
No problem.
Jonathan joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Jonathan. You're on the air.
How you doing?
Doing great.
Okay, good. I applaud the guys who's talking. I'm sorry, I don't know his name.
His name is Martin
applaud
Davis.
Martin's positivity. But I think that it's deeper than that because of the whole idea of snitching. It's not that they don't want to do it to make positive change in their neighborhood. There are actually repercussions. And local police departments from here to Baltimore to D.C., they don't protect witnesses like they should, and that's a big problem. So, stepping out on that ledge is a big deal for these people, and I think that needs to be pointed out.
Jonathan, do you have experience with that, just out of curiosity?
No, but I follow it in the news, and I follow it nationwide as well as locally. I think we do a better job here than other places, but there's still a problem. And it doesn't necessarily mean that these people that witness are going to be murdered or, but the reprisals can be, something to do with your family. They might threaten that. They might, hurt your property. So it's very complex. And I think the image in the community, like Martin said, needs to be more positive, and they need to reinforce positive things. But I also think that he's kind of missing the fact that, it's so violent, and the drug war, which we haven't won and we're not going to win, just keeps going on, and it perpetuates this because it's so lucrative for these people to be involved, the purveyors of the violence to be involved in this drug war.
All right, let's let Martin respond. Thanks so much for the call, Jonathan. Martin, you want to respond?
Yeah, remember you mentioned the same thing about the fear, and that's understandable. And that's why Chicago has an anonymous tip line, an anonymous text line, where you don't even have to give your name. You can use some type of what they call a identification number.
Yes, we have that here in this area also. Yeah, it's here in this area
too. Great. Why wouldn't we use that? If I could tell a person who shot a 6-month-old and I know for a fact who did it, I'm going to pick up that line and say, hey, that was Junior or that was such and such. Y'all need to check him because that's who I saw with the gun in hand when this happened. Because it's only a matter of time, folks, before it's on your doorstep. And I mean, I'm not saying because of reprisal. I'm saying because if they got away with that murder, what's to stop them from randomly shooting at a park with your child in it next week?
Okay, let's go to Ted in Norfolk. Hi, Ted. You're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great.
Good. I'm not a Black American, so I can't relate specifically to the long-standing and inherent conflicts that Black Americans do feel. But I do want to make a couple of comments. Mm-hmm. First of all, I'm wondering about perhaps the use of guns, the rampant use of weapons. That the first resort is to shoot somebody. What is your sense of how that relates to providing a sense of empowerment in the absence of something else? And to me, that kind of ties into the whole. Okay, I'm wearing this $400 sneakers. I'm wearing the gold. I'm doing this. I'm posturing in a sense in order to aggrandize myself. The other comment that I have to make is that I believe fundamentally, and this doesn't apply only in this case, but fundamental intolerance has its origins in ignorance, hatred, and fear. And I think that intolerance can only be corrected by teaching our children the 3 R's, and I'm not talking about reading, writing, and arithmetic, but respect, restraint, and responsibility. And until we engender that in our youth, then I don't think we can make progress on a number of social fronts. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ted. We appreciate that call. Martin, you want to respond?
Oh, definitely. He nailed it. Because until us as older Black men start taking care of our younger people and teaching them, like he said, respect, restraint, responsibility. Because I try to teach these brothers that manhood is not about who's the toughest or who's about killing the most people. Manhood is about taking care of your family, taking care of yourself and your community. And that's where it goes back to, if somebody bumps into me, I'm not less of a man if I say, excuse me, or my bad. Mm-hmm. There is nothing wrong with that. That does not make you a punk. That does not make you anything negative. It's just being a man. I've met people that I bumped into. We start a conversation about the Chicago Bears or whatever we talk about. Next thing you know, we're friends. We're chopping it up at the train station every morning now because of a simple, oh, excuse me or pardon me. But we didn't take it to a level where now we're trying to shoot one another or choke one another to death. There's a better way of handling our confrontations, and we don't have to do it using violence. But that's taught in the home. That's taught by mentorship. That's taught by some of these guys that don't have a father, what real manhood is about.
And, Martin, my other question to you then, because you talk a lot about education in the book and how critical that is. And I'm wondering then, outside of your being able to speak on, through programs such as this and others, how do we get the message then to the people that it most affects?
There's one thing I have to say on this show.
Okay.
I want a DVD collection called Hidden Colors. I want that in every single school system in America, every public school system, because this is what changed my entire outlook on African American people and our contributions to civilization. Barbara, hear me out.
Okay.
If our young people could see Hidden Colors 1, 2, and 3, it would put them at such a better thought about themselves, the pride, the respect of where they came from and everything that we've done to civilization in general, how we're the people who started navigation of the seas and astronomy and classical music. We taught Russian people how to speak Russian. A black man named Alexander Pushkin did that. They need to know our history. All you learn about, Barbara, is when we got here from slave time, that's where they start black history, that we were cattle, we were product, we were someone to be used in the fields, beaten, sold off. How do you think that value is for our children? They don't have pride. They don't even want to say they're African. See, every other ethnic group, oh, I'm German American. Oh, I'm Japanese American. I'm Italian American. They're proud. They say it with pride. What about us? We run away from saying African, because we don't know our history. We don't know our culture. But I tell you one thing, if they look at these DVDs, it will change their life, because they will see that we're from a stock that no one else can touch. And there's nothing we can't do, because we have the mental capacity. We just have to change the mindset and how we've been bombarded with all the negativity all these years. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Joan joins us from Hampton. Hi, Joan. You're on the air.
I'm kind of responding to a question at the beginning of how we get to be able to kill each other and don't have a sense of sorrow about it. And I'm thinking back to my days in graduate school at Atlanta University, where a professor presented to us a theory, or really not a theory, but it's a practice. You look at the Europeans who came to this country in search of freedom. So the question is, how do you enslave another people? So you adopt the mindset of non-white, non-Western, non-Christian, you're non-human. And when you live under that system, you begin to adopt the ideology of the oppressor, so that now we kill each other and we don't seem to take a second thought about it. If somebody else kills us, we're all over them. But we don't take that responsibility, I think, because we've adopted that mindset that we're not really human. And so what if you kill somebody of your own race? It doesn't matter, because you're not human.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Joan, thanks so much for that comment. Martin, do you want to respond to that?
Joan is right. We devalue one another. Remember I said, if you can call each other the N word and the B word, almost like you say good morning, how much do you really value that other person? Think about it. We are so quick to kill one another, yet we get upset, like she said, when somebody else kills us. Well, think about the N word. People hear us using it so much among ourselves, and they don't feel that there's any big deal of them using it. And you see how some of these Caucasian people and stuff are using the N-word more and more every day because they hear it every day. They figure, hey, if you guys are doing it, what's to stop me from doing it? And I hate to say this, but the police have seemed to have adopted that same mantra where they kill us, one man every 28 hours, and because they'll come back and say, well, you guys are killing each other in the hood, and the only time we hear you are marching or whatever is when one of the police officers kill you. What's going on with that?
Wow.
I think Joan kind of touched on it. We don't value one another, Barbara, and we have to change that mindset.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with Martin L. Davis, author of Are We There Yet? The Ultimate Challenge. In it, Davis challenges the Black community to take care of its problems internally and without the help and influence of others. What does the title mean? Are we there yet?
Yeah, I came up with this title before writing a word of the book because I wanted to ask the people of color, Black community, are you there yet? Are you now sick and tired of where we're at? Are you ready to stop being the highest incarcerated group of people, the highest unemployed group of people, the highest murdered per capita people? Like, are you there yet? Are you ready to just really stand with me and join this movement to change the direction that Black people are going? And that's where the title came from, because I know I'm sick and tired of it. And so are a lot of other brothers and sisters out there that follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and that have gotten this book. They want to change because we can't survive like this. We have to change our mindset or we are going to be our own worst enemies for years to come.
You have challenge number 20, which says, I don't have to hate your people to love my people. And I want to quote one thing from you because I just thought it was just so profound. When you say, I don't have to hate your people to love my people. I don't have to disrespect your people to respect my people. I don't have to drag your people down to lift up my people. I don't have to shun your people to embrace my people. I don't have to condemn your people to praise my people. This goes to that whole idea of how some interpret being proud of being an African American as being negative against others.
Well, I had to put that in the book because I knew people were going to, I think even one of your callers said something about militant. I am so far from militant. Let me be clear. My baby boy who's 3 years old, his godparents are my neighbors who are Caucasian people. These people are great people, and God forbid if something was to happen to me, I would know that my kid is going to be in good hands with them. See, my thing is I can have my own business, my own soul food restaurant, but then if I want Italian food, I can still go visit Italian Village. If I want Greek food, I can still go eat Greek food. See, my thing is I want to have our own businesses so that we have the opportunity and the option to use a Black contractor or use a Black lawyer or use a Black doctor. But if I want to, use someone else, I can do that too. My thing is,
just
I don't have to
exclude
hate you
one.
to love my own people, Barbara. And I wanted to make that crystal clear that I'm not a militant that wants to go out and kill this or kill that and everybody else is bad. I just want to embrace my people and lift us up so we can play on the same playing field with everybody else.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Give us a call and join our conversation about turning things around within the African American community. Jay joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Jay. You're on the air.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Good. I just want to point out from my experience, which has been a beautiful experience my entire life, this is not a race issue as much as it is an economic issue. There's so much that goes on when the income is low and parents have to work, can't spend time with their kids, but they're missing out on that family structure that is so vital and important to us having respect for each other, no matter what our color is. And I don't have any issues ever with anybody who's white or Black or, whatever, just because of how I am when I'm around people. I love everybody. I share that when I meet people, and I take jobs in areas and neighborhoods that most people that I know wouldn't take because they're scared of what might happen to them when they're working there. But I've never had one issue because I give that respect, and I have no problem apologizing if I bump into somebody or saying, hey, it's not a big deal. You bumped into me. Who cares? And all my experiences with everybody I've ever met have been positive because you give that, you almost always get it back. And you have to base your hold back or what you put out there when you meet somebody more on their energy than on their color. And you adjust it as you see fit. And all my kids have the same things going on, no matter where they go to school. They go to different schools. They have different situations come up. And because they've learned that in the home, there's no problems.
Okay, Jay, thanks so much for your call. Martin, to Jay's point, though, let me ask you, is there a difference between when there's interaction between blacks and another race as opposed to interaction between African Americans?
Wow. Oh, man. That's an interesting question because you don't hear as much of, I guess, black people killing a white person because they bumped into them or stepped on their shoe. You know, I don't recall any of that, not at all. So there must be a different way we're interacting with one another when we're, when we're bumped into or talking to another one's girl or something. I don't see black people killing white people because of that type of issue. I just don't see it. But I do want to address what he said about poverty. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether poverty really is playing the role in it because let's be clear. In Chicago, people are shooting one another and not even gaining any type of monetary value out of it.
What do you mean by that?
There's a part in my book, Barbara, I say you're just as broke today as you were yesterday, and you just killed someone. So, but I do agree with him that the home front, it has to be strong. You have to have some type of parenting or guidance that tells you what's right and wrong. Because if you're allowing rap music or video games to raise you, believe me, you are going to not do well in this society. Somebody's got to ground you and teach you right from wrong and manners and how important life is. You follow me?
Yeah, I follow you. But let me ask you this, Martin, because, okay, you've already said you are a middle-class African-American man.
There are always.
Okay, but you are now, and there are many others who are, but who may not be as willing to go back into the community as you have done to impart these lessons. So is this as much of a message for those of us who are in the middle class that if we don't start changing that subculture that is within our community, that in fact we will self-implode?
Yes, I'm a big component of talking to my colleagues, associates, and getting them to volunteer at like Daniel S. Wentworth. There's a school out here in Chicago. They have something called 100 Positive Black Men every year. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, taking part in that, I see that there's others out there like me that will volunteer and come out and give their time and energy. But, sometimes I hate to say it, some of us have given up on the inner city young brothers because of sometimes the way they interact, the way they dress, the way they don't want to listen when you're just trying to even tell them how to report for an interview. They give you all this almost back talk where you're like, brother, I'm just trying to help you get the next job you go to. I'm not trying to demean you or make you feel bad. I'm just saying you might want to throw on some slacks and a shirt and tie for that interview versus, the saggy jeans and the Timbs. Mm-hmm. But, I guess as long as I can reach 1 out of 10, I'm happy. Like, I don't have to reach everybody because I know I'm not, but I'm willing to try. And, some of the people that I try to get to help mentor, they just feel like, Martin, you're wasting your time. You're spinning your wheels. They'll never learn. But I said, we were there one day. We used to be them. And usually I can talk them into it, over, a beer or something, or while we're in the barbershop, I can kind of get them to join me.
Okay. Joe joins us from Hampton. Hi, Joe. You're on the air.
Hello?
Yes. Hi, Joe. You're on the air.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to...
Hello? Joe, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. What's your question?
My question is, I think what is happening here with Mr. Davis, I think it's wonderful. Yes.
Okay. Anything else you want to ask him?
I think what Mr. Davis is doing is wonderful, but I think what we need to do, and we're all talking about it, is deal with instituting middle-class values.
Instituting middle-class values? Okay.
Yeah, at a very young age.
Okay.
I've got a corporation or nonprofit organization that I'm doing that in right now in Hampton.
Okay, Joe, thanks so much. Your phone is breaking up a little bit, but I think I've got the gist of what you're saying. So, Martin, he's talking about the whole idea of, do we need to call it middle class values or should we call it something else?
Wow. I understand exactly what Joe is saying, though, because it seems like sometimes the middle class have that family structure, the economics to kind of keep their family together and maybe teach their kids a little bit better. Like sometimes when you're living week to week, it's tough. And working 2 and 3 jobs, somebody else mentioned that. It's really hard to spend that time, that quality time with your kids and show them the right direction sometimes. Or if the father's missing out of the home, that's a real big part of it too. Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised at the amount of young men I have to teach just how to tie a tie. But I'm willing to do that because my dad taught me, and so I'm willing to do it. But middle class values, man, Barbara, that's a good, I don't know what to call it.
And the reason why I bring that up, though, is because I guess the question is sometimes when you put it in economic terms like that, it becomes more of a turnoff as opposed to these are just good values. Period. And whether you're poor, super rich, middle class, you still want to learn and to function with values.
That's so true. But when they say babies having babies, mm-hmm. that goes back to if you're so young when you have your child that you really don't know what you're doing, and then your parent was so young that they didn't know what they were doing, who's really teaching us how to instill the proper values in our children?
Good point. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Donnie joins us from Hampton. Hi, Donnie. You're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I kind of joined your program a little bit late, but one of the things I picked up was an issue about the violence. And I remember about 20 plus years ago reading a book called Fist, Knife, Stick, Gun, and it talked about the escalation of violence. And I can recall as a child that, when we went to the recreation center, parents told children, if somebody hits you, you hit them back, and if they're bigger than you, you pick up a stick. And so I think that's where the escalation has. But now that everybody has a gun, that kids want to carry guns, and somehow, we do have to try and make a dent in that whole sense of being respect or gaining respect by carrying a gun or being a violent person. The other thing that came up was this whole thing of mentoring. I've been involved in a number of mentoring programs, but one of the problems is, and I remember years ago I tried to start a mentoring program at my church. Some of the older people have felt like, I've raised my own children. I don't have time to try and raise anybody else's child. Mm-hmm. And they were willing to even pay money for us to maybe do activities, but they weren't willing to make that commitment themselves. And I think, you have a number of factors in why our children don't have positive role models.
Okay, let's let our guest respond to that. Thanks so much for the call, Donnie. He's saying that there are people who don't want to get involved and mentor in that way.
Well, of course, we know that. If we had more people that were willing to do it, we'd probably have a lot less issues. But my thing to those people is you can't complain about what's going on in these communities unless you're willing to help. It's almost like complaining about politicians and not going out and voting. You follow me, Barbara? Like you can't do both. Like if you're going to complain about, look how they're acting and look what they're doing, but not willing to go in there and talk to a few people, then you might as well just shut up to me because you're not helping the problem. You're just complaining and pointing fingers.
Okay. Our phone lines are lit up. So if you get a busy signal or if you need to hold on just a little bit, please just hang in there with us. Casey joins us from Newport News. Hi, Casey.
Hi. I was just calling because I went to school in a city area, and it was always very clear to me that it wasn't just the black men that needed education, because as a white woman walking around, it is terrifying, some of the things that are yelled and said because I am a white woman. And if there could be more influence in any way, like having more black teachers, Latino teachers, anything to help educate people on how to just treat other people. It just seems like that is the most important thing, not necessarily. I lost my thought, but
I got what your point is, though.
Yeah.
So having more people in the classroom and so forth who look like the students that they're serving. Casey, you bring up a good point, and Martin, I want to expand that just a little bit in the fact that you talk in your book about how women also need to play a more active role in helping their men, or helping men in the community to be able to be a stronger role model, to kind of change their thought patterns and to change the way that they do things?
Barbara, I love that you just brought that up. Because, ladies, you have to step your game up. And just like that young lady was just saying, some women answer to that. Some women actually answer to these young men calling them all types of stuff to get their attention. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't believe it. Like, if the young ladies just step their game up and make these young men pull up their pants, stop calling them out their name if they want to, court them or date them or whatever the case may be, and make them earn their respect. Make these men call them, ma'am or miss or sister, you can't be calling these women the B word or the H word or all these negative things and then have them respond positively, because some of these young brothers think that's the way it is. Like they don't even understand, Barbara, that if you really want to find a good woman and really speak to her, you have to speak to her politely and intelligently. Like they don't think, they've never been taught that. So their whole catcalling and calling them out their name is just so natural, they don't even realize that it's offensive to some. Do you follow me, Barbara?
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. Daryl joins us from Hampton. Hi, Daryl. You're on the air.
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
Doing okay. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Good.
I just had a question, not to be negative or anything, but
Can you turn your radio down for us, Daryl, because we're getting a little bit of feedback.
Sorry about that.
Okay, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Is this really a conversation that is still of value these days? Not once again, not to be negative, but it seems like there's more of an issue between African Americans just about how people deal with people, as opposed to knowing where you come from as an African American or what you've done. It seems like it's more of a spiritual or a moral issue than anything. I'm 27 years old, and of course I can't relate entirely to the things that African Americans have been through, but as a whole, just understanding what my assignment is spiritually. Mm-hmm. And understanding morals and how things should go, that helps me as a person, as opposed to just an African American. It seems that putting ourselves in that box kind of creates more of an issue than it really is.
Okay, let's let Martin respond to that. And Martin, Daryl's not the first person who has said that, and we hear that on occasion here on Another View, but there are specific issues that are happening within the African American community. Is that your point, Martin?
Well, yeah, I see stuff happening in our community that doesn't happen anywhere else. Like I said, just the degrading of one another, the killing of one another like we're worthless. And he's had a point. Religion is a great factor in this because, I'm a firm, I even mentioned it in the book, Barbara, about how I like the Nation of Islam and what they do to certain individuals when they come into the nation. Now, I'm not a practicing Muslim, but I've watched how they can take a young man or a young woman who was in prison and going down the wrong path and totally turn their lives around, make them proud, make them hard workers, make them well-mannered and well-spoken. It's amazing the transformation I've seen the Nation of Islam do to people. So you're right, that religion plays a role, education plays a role, your upbringing in the home plays a role. It's not just one silver bullet. And that's why the book encompasses all of those things. That we have to put it all together, just like every other community has put it together. That's why they are more successful than we are.
Okay. Let's take Robert in Portsmouth. We are running out of time quickly, but we want to get as many calls in as we can. Go ahead, Robert. You're on the air.
Hey, how you doing?
Mm-hmm. Doing good.
I'm thinking, the earlier gentleman talking about the mentoring and showing them how to tie ties because they didn't have a father figure in the house. A lot of that is the upbringing with, a single parent, which my mother was a single parent. My father died when I was young. But a lot of that mentoring and a lot of discipline goes hand in hand with that. And the reason why I bring that up is in the news not too recently here is a couple is being taken to court for child neglect by letting their 10-year-old out on the street, by themselves.
Yes.
You got to go back to, our age group, which is, 60s, 70s, and even sooner. for us to go out and explore the world and everything like that, if you keep these guys, these kids sheltered.
Okay.
Because the world is a mentoring place.
Robert, I got your point, and we're about 3 minutes out. So let Martin respond very, very quickly to your point. He's talking about there in Silver Spring, Maryland, there were parents who allowed their kids to walk to a park by themselves, and someone called the police, and now the parents are being accused of child neglect. And his point being that you need to let kids breathe a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the problem with letting your kid walk to the park. Mine is too young. I got one that's 18 or whatever. He walks there. I mean, I don't know what age this was of the young child.
10 and 6. They were 10 and 6 years old. Mm-hmm.
Well, 10 years old, yeah. They could, depending on how far the park is, if it's right up the street, yeah, they should be able to walk to a park in their own community. But, of course, in some of our communities, that could almost be a death sentence. So I don't know. I'm not sure what this area is like, but I don't think the parents should be locked up for allowing their 10-year-old and 6-year-old to play at the park. I don't see it.
Okay, Martin, we've got about 2 minutes left in this conversation. So real quick question. I know it went by very fast. What is it then that you want ultimately Black people to know about Black people in terms of turning this around?
That we're beautiful, intelligent, loving, and just innovative people. I want them to know that. Do not buy in that we're uneducated, can't function in America, we're lazy. Don't buy into that, folks. We developed civilization. Just get those hidden color DVDs and you'll see what I'm talking about. We are the reason that this world is the way it is, from our inventions, our knowledge, our talent. Please don't fall into that white supremacy that makes you feel that you're less than anyone else, because you're not. You're better than anybody else if you're given the same opportunity.
Okay. And Martin, just so that people know, you do not get any monetary recompensation or anything about talking about hidden colors. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm sorry. I didn't even promote my own book. I'm promoting Hidden Colors. But I swear by it so much, but I don't get a dime for this. I just love what I saw, and it changed my life, because I called myself a pretty smart guy. But I didn't know anything about what we did until I saw that DVD collection. It blew me away, Barbara.
Okay.
You need to get it, and let's talk about it.
All right. That is Martin Davis. He is the author of Are We There Yet? The Ultimate Challenge. Martin, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciated it, and we'll be right back.
Hey, this is Deborah Cox, and you're listening to Another View on WHRV 89.5 FM.
Wow, what a conversation. Thanks to all of you who called in, because I know we couldn't get to all of the calls. On Monday, we'll pause to remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his contributions to civil rights. But the celebration starts a day early in Norfolk with a tribute concert this Sunday evening titled Songs for a Dreamer. This Virginia Symphony concert will feature music inspired by the African American experience or written by African American composers. One of the featured performers is Justine Elliott, an 18-year-old violinist from Newport News, who recently spoke with our Lisa Godley about her love of music and the upcoming concert.
For 18-year-old Justine Elliott, music has been a big part of her life for almost as long as she can remember.
I've been playing the violin since I was 2 years old, so about 16 years now. My mom was really the influence. She's been a musician for a really long time, and she started my brother out, my older brother, Brendan. And according to her, I was very interested in what he was doing, and I really wanted to pick up the violin just like he was and be like him. That was the reason why she started me on the violin.
By the time Justine was 7, she had landed a spot with her first youth orchestra. What would follow? More than a dozen accolades, honors, and scholarships. Her love for music taking her all over the world, sometimes performing alone, and sometimes as the second violinist for her family's ensemble, the Elliott Family Quartet.
We've been a quartet for probably about 10 years, and especially in the beginning, it was really fun because we got to travel all over the place. People invited us to play out in San Francisco, Las Vegas, and all over the country. So it was really fun, and We played a lot of fun music, not just classical, but like pop music and just fun stuff like that. So it's been really fun. And even though like we have had our arguments, just because, you know, being with your family that much and like trying to get stuff done with them, it's always going to be a chore, but it's really been worth it in the end.
The talented foursome, which includes Justine's mother Danielle and her two brothers Brendan and Sterling, recently performed what they describe as the most difficult piece they've ever done.
It was a music festival that featured professional African-American classical musicians. We did perform as a quartet there. We played the Ravel Quartet in F minor, and it was really challenging. It was probably the most challenging piece we've ever had to put together. Every day we had to practice, even sometimes until 1 a.m, just because it was so difficult, but you know, it was a really interesting piece.
But in just a few days, Justine will be playing alone as she prepares for her first solo performance with the Virginia Symphony Orchestra.
Oh, it's so much fun. It's really such a different experience than playing by yourself or playing with piano, because you have so much energy behind you and you can feel the energy of all the people that are just playing with you and they're there with you in the moment on stage. Because performing is such a personal thing, and musicians really go into a performance mode. So it's really fun to have like other people there with you sharing the experience.
Once the Songs for a Dreamer concert is over, Justine will head back to Ithaca College, where she's studying music and sound engineering.
I think music it's really a special thing because you can always make it your own, and it does take a lot of hard work and dedication, because if you don't work at it every day, just like anything, you know, if you don't work at it every day, you're not going to get to where you want to be. But when you do work at it and you do like accomplish those things that you've been waiting for, you know, for a long time, it's so worth it. And you can make it so personal to you, and it can take you so many places. It's a really fulfilling experience.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
Wow. And as Martin said, we do a little bit of everything. We wish Justine the very, very best. Songs for a Dreamer, a tribute to Martin Luther King Jr., is a free concert and will begin at 7 p.m. this Sunday, January the 18th, at Calvary Revival Church on Poplar Hall Drive in Norfolk. And I am very, very honored to receive a Martin Luther King Jr. Community Leader Award at the MLK Breakfast, hosted by the Urban League and Old Dominion University on this coming Monday, January 19th at 7:30 a.m. at the Ted Constance Center. I hope to see you there along with everyone else who will be coming out to celebrate. If you'd like to hear this show again, please visit our website, anotherviewradio.org, and sign up for our eView newsletter, a once-a-week reminder of upcoming shows. And we're on Facebook. We've made it to over 900, so we want to get to 1,000. Please like us. Next week, it's Another View on Health with co-host Dr. Keith Newby. We're going to talk about African Americans and stroke and what happens during the rehabilitation process. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Victor Bowen is our audio engineer. And Kamaria Mason was really busy answering our phones. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Have a wonderful holiday weekend and plan to do something significant that helps someone else on Martin Luther King Day. After all, that's what the celebration is all about. And then let's get together again next Friday at noon for Another View.